The war in heaven. Is it deception? Is it truth? Is it somewhere in between? Speaking of the book written by Kyle Griffith, we've done a few shows on it, and today we're specifically going to look at the war in heaven, the invisible college. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower. Welcome to our YouTube channel, Christian Whistleblower Jeff Daugherty Show, and NCK, New Cosmic Knowledge. I had a great interview with Rex today. Rex Bear over at Leaf Project. Check him out. And sorry I've been a little light on the videos today, but I fell asleep for a couple hours. What's that all about? You know, I burn the candle at both ends and do my polyphasic sleeping. And every now and then I fall off the wagon and boom, find myself taking an extended nap. But the good news is I feel great and we're ready to put out some more high quality video production for you. I know my video production is sadly lacking. I think our content is really good, and that's great. But I'm really working and doing my best, and as I continue to get more sponsorship, we're going to upgrade. We're probably going to upgrade to a different computer and a different video program so we can actually give you something that's pleasing to look at rather than something you got to kind of maybe close your eyes and just listen to the info. But the war in heaven, the invisible college. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower. We do appreciate those of you that are liking, sharing, and subscribing, and those of you that are sponsoring. And I just want to say, I'm doing personal consultation, personal work with people now. Every day this week I've helped at least one person, and we do have, I've done everything from entity removal / exorcism to straight up spiritual counseling to healing, to, advice. So EFT, NLP, hypnosis, we've got all kinds of things that we can help you with. 36 years of experience in the spiritual realm. Trouble with entities, trouble with things in your space, things in your face. Not cosmetic surgery, but, things that are like up in your grill. And we're able to help, at least a couple people a day. So I've still got some openings. If you want some help, let me know. Typically, I work in the half-hour, 45-minute chunks. I usually don't say X amount of dollars. I'll let you give a donation. Every now and then somebody will say, hey, I need this. It's going to take this long. How much? Boom. I'll tell you. And all of that money is going right back into this work because I've got a way to, let's just say we're putting it all back in, and we appreciate your sponsorship. So if you need some help, let me know. You can send me a message through this. You can send a private message through YouTube. You can go to my website and send a message. You can send a message to christianwhistleblower@gmail.com. So let's rock and roll here. The Christian Whistleblower War in Heaven, the Invisible College. And again, this is part of the War in Heaven series that we're doing. And I am not a believer. I'm not an enthusiast of channeled messages. It's very hard for me to just say, oh, if it's channeled, I don't want to hear it. Get it out of my face. Get that con out of my face. If you've never seen Nacho Libre, you're really stealing from yourself. But if you're going to watch that movie, you have to make a commitment. You got to watch it at least 2 or 3 times, because the first time I watched it with my kids in the theater, I wanted to walk out. If they hadn't been there, I would have walked out. But I ended up being roped into watching it 2, 3 times. I've probably seen it 10 now, and for some reason, the more times you watch it, the more hilarious it gets. So that's my public service announcement. So this is a channeled message, and I'm looking at it in 2 different ways. Yes, it's a channeled message, and it may be part of a grand deception, so we're looking at it. It may be part of some helpful information, so we're looking at it. And it may be a little bit of both, so we're looking at it. But here's a kind of the direct message that this fellow Kyle Griffith got from these entities, and they do a pretty good job of explaining who they think they are. And I've got a sneaky feeling that they're painting an accurate depiction of what's going on, and they at least think they're telling the truth. But even if they're not, it lets us know what's going on and gives us a chance to know what's happening. And like I've always said to you, to be forewarned is to be forearmed. So anyway, this is a message to people of Earth from spirits now residing on your astral plane. And if you want to know about the astral plane, watch some of the first videos in this series. You can see them. They all have the same front on them, War in Heaven. And they've spent, I'm just going to read it as they said it. We have spent our past lives on worlds with technical civilizations much more advanced than yours. So most of these dudes and dudettes, these entities, are saying that they're from other planets, other worlds, or at least other dimensions than our current Earth. Hundreds of thousands of us have been sent here deliberately by our governments to assist you in fighting a war to liberate yourselves from theocracy, which is a form of oppression and exploitation that has always existed throughout your history. And if you know me, you know I'm all about resisting theocracy. Let me just scoot this over one little bit so we can get all the words in. Yeah. And theocracy is what the rat bastard's involved in. Theocracy is top-down, governmental, and it's religious-based governmental control. And again, I don't want to get back on the same old hobby horse, but those of you within the truth movement that are audit the Fed and are anarchists and are NWO and are, I know they're taking away our rights. You've got to realize that the religious power, the Christian church is part and parcel with everything that the government's doing. It's the same group. They're in bed with each other. They've been ever since Constantine declared a single Roman or single religion of the Roman Empire, Christianity, in about 325 AD. So you've got to open your eyes. It's not just the government. It is the church as well. And all the scrutiny you want to subject the government to, which, by the way, I agree with, you need to also be willing, ready, and able to subject the church to the same scrutiny, and that's what I'm here for. But anyway, it does make me nervous when I hear about governments sending warriors to help us liberate yourselves. I mean, look how we liberated Iraq. Look how we liberated Afghanistan. So there's a whole lot of liberating going out on there and going on around here, and it doesn't, a lot of it end up in any real liberty. So that gives me a little bit of pause. But they're right about theocracy. So that's why I have a struggle with this, because, ooh, not good, oh, really good. So here we go. We're on Earth's astral plane, and we work with a political organization of spirits that your occult literature calls the Invisible College. After spending a few years as disembodied spirits, we're forced to incarnate on your planet and lose most of the memories brought with us. Now, this is where the plot really thickens to me, ladies and gentlemen. This is where the plot really thickens, because they're teaching that, and as we go on with this, we're 63 pages through 200, so we got a little more to go, and I've read this thing probably 4 times by now. They're basically saying that the bad guys, and I forget what they're calling them right now, but the theocracy doesn't reincarnate, and they're trying to get people not to reincarnate so they can be big badasses in the astral realm and exploit people on the physical realm. But they go crazy if they don't reincarnate after a certain amount of time. And the good guys here, the Invisible College, they're calling themselves the good guys. They don't do that. They still reincarnate, but they do it so they won't go crazy, but they lose a lot when they do reincarnate. So it almost sounds like they're pitching, and they really are, as we'll see, pitching that we have to reincarnate. Reincarnate, reincarnate, reincarnate. And part of me says, hey, anybody that's trying to get you to reincarnate, reincarnate, reincarnate is very likely, or could very likely be trying to keep you from moving on and up into your other, continuing your spiritual ascension. So that really bugs me. Do they not know any better? And are they really stating, they're stating a truth. If you stay in the astral plane too long, you will start to degrade and go nuts. So that's true. But your only 2 choices, that's it. They're presenting to us that our only 2 choices are stay on the astral plane or reincarnate. I don't believe that's so. What do you think? Let me know. Be interested to hear what you have to say And I am going to do some live shows because you said, hey, Jeff, we would like some live shows. So it'll be easier for you to tell me what you have to say. But I do read all of your comments, so do it. After spending a few years as disembodied spirits, we're forced to reincarnate. So we don't go crazy, basically, is what they'll say later. But the problem is we lose most of the memories that have brought with us. So then they say things like this that make you say, we're not innately superior to Earth people in intelligence, morality, or any other quality. However, our knowledge and behavior may give this illusion because they were learned in cultures that are far superior than yours. I don't have any problem thinking that there's a superior culture than Earth out there somewhere. And for them to say, hey, look, we're just dudes and dudesses just like you, which is kind of, I like that. Now here, this is, it's either a great lie or they think they're doing right. Our motives, they say, in doing this are both altruistic and selfish. If we had not intervened, the human race on Earth would have evolved in directions that pose a serious threat to our worlds and space colonies. So we're fighting a preventive war on our own behalf, but we also feel the overwhelming majority of Earth people will support our cause if we are to explain the situation fully. So, I mean, this is where it gets really, really difficult for me because they're selling this intergalactic, Star Wars type thing or Star Trek type thing. And they're saying, yeah, we're not, we're good guys, but we're also here to try to help ourselves too. So, I don't know. And that's why we're putting this out there. I want to hear your feedback. I want to hear your opinions. And, yeah, interesting stuff. Until the last few decades, we've been fighting the theocrats, and I'm fighting the theocrats. I believe theocracy should be opposed. They've been doing it mostly by indirect means, using social and political knowledge to raise the level of civilization on Earth in constructive ways. And that's where, many people have said they've used Freemasonry to help raise the level of civilization and the good and the bad that comes with it. Dr. Andy Toltec, who you've heard on some of the Demystifying Spirituality broadcasts with me, he tries to get me to see that even the Christian church was used by the divine to keep us out of the astral realm until we were ready, and was, even though it was bad, that was used in some constructive ways. I still have trouble with that one, but there's at least been this thought of people using social political knowledge to raise the level of civilization, and they, practically everything that's commonly considered good about modern Western civilization is the product, they say, of their clandestine manipulation. So they're basically taking credit for all the good stuff that's happened on Earth, which again makes me not real comfortable with that. How do we operate? Well, we mostly influence the subconscious minds of Earth people telepathically. We work through people with conscious control of their telepathic powers when we want to communicate large amounts of explicit information. But the majority of our work has always been done without the conscious knowledge or consent of the people involved. So, yeah, that is a little worrisome. So it's kind of like, yeah, we're not telling you about it, but we're doing it for your own good. And when any entity starts saying, hey, trust us, let us take over, we're doing it for our own good, I really have a problem with it. But that doesn't mean we're going to stop learning about this, because there's a lot of good stuff here that we can, Nanu, Leak Project, there's a lot of good stuff that we can learn from this. And regardless of where they come from, the messages about the war in heaven can be used by us in preparation. They will give us basic facts about the theocracy. And they will give us an idea of some spiritual upheavals that are to come, and that we're really kind of sort of in a very real way in the very midst of. So the theocracy, I think we should talk about this, because it really puts what I talk about into, more terms that are easier for you to kind of understand and relate to, and they're not so woo-woo. So what they're talking about is, and this is great stuff, this is really why I wanted to talk to you about this, because it's very, very powerful knowledge. And I was talking a little bit about this with Rex Bear today on the Leaf Project. So we know it's speculative. I'm not saying yes for sure it's great stuff, but what I'm saying is some of this is great knowledge, and this is some of that great knowledge right now. I'm the Christian whistleblower, Jeffrey Daugherty. We're looking at the war in heaven, and specifically the claim of this invisible college. Now, check this out, folks, because this is right up the Christian whistleblower's alley, and this gives you another way for it to be explained and another way for it to be understood, other than the halting, somewhat difficult to understand ways of yours truly. The spiritual beings worshipped as gods by many religious groups are imposters. You've heard me say that continually. So anyone that brings that message out usually has my undivided attention, because it's true. All of the great traditions teach us of gods who are imposters. And this is powerful. They're nothing more than the disembodied spirits of human beings who refuse to incarnate, remain on the astral plane, exercise power over other spirits and living people, theocrats, a name that describes the ancient Egyptian pharaohs and other earthly rulers who justify their demand for absolute power by posing as divine beings. All of a sudden, we think back about the Anunnaki, and we think back about the Egyptians and those big kings lists, and how could this king have ruled for 3,000 years and this one 1,800 years? Well, if they are a disembodied spirit on the astral plane controlling living people, then they very well could be ruling earthly rulers who justify their demand for absolute power by posing as divine beings. So now we've got the place where these divine beings don't necessarily have to be divine beings, but they have sold their soul to rock and roll. They've sold their soul to other disembodied beings and have said, okay, use me and make me, be super demigod for many years. Or maybe they are able to incarnate. Or maybe they just come in and they're invited in, or they use an astral hologram and they're able to at times come down and actually use that being, that person that's on the earth. But anyway, and this is fascinating, and I think this is true, and from my experience on the astral plane, this does have the ring of truth, that there's political organizations of spirits on the astral plane. And there's different relationships, there's different factions, and these spirits have interrelations and politics between themselves on the astral plane. And they have interplay with us. Not by coming here, but by drawing us there. And I've been over that a million times. But the premise of these beings that channeled this information to Mr. Griffith are that the theocrats are violating natural law when they refuse to reincarnate. Now, this statement is assuming that natural law demands that you reincarnate. I'd be interested to hear what you say about that, but I say, nanu, nanu, no, 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 no. I cannot believe that the only way for us, who is a spiritual being, we're spiritual beings, why do we have to reincarnate in flesh in order to grow and develop? Why is that a natural law? No, something smells fishy in the state of Denmark, to crib a note from Shakespeare. I don't think that reincarnation is a natural law. Now, I will say this, up until the Christ came and showed us the ways and the truths and the life and the ways to, he gathered all the best of the ways, all the best of the truths from all the different spiritual teachings, both on the earth and I think even beyond. So he showed us how we could complete our ascension in a single lifetime. The idea is that you have to be able to navigate through the astral plane, get beyond it, in order to continue your spiritual ascension. These guys are saying the astral plane's the whole thing, or they seem to be saying it. So I would say no to that. Now, maybe they don't know, but at any rate, it's not, in my view, good teaching. The souls of all living beings are constructed to incarnate and draw energy from the physical body. Only if we could say the souls of all living beings on the astral plane are constructed to incarnate and draw energy from the physical body, I would say, yes, that's true. All the souls on the earth plane and on the physical plane are constructed to incarnate and draw energy from the physical body. This is the only natural and efficient way in which the soul can get the vital energy it needs to function and regenerate itself. Yes, on earth, yes, on the astral plane, but I believe that there is life beyond that. So he's talking about, I guess in New Age woo-woo terms, he's talking about 4D being the highest level of consciousness. And I don't agree with that. But still, very good information here. The soul is an astral body made up of a special form of matter. I think the soul manifests in the astral as a body made up of a special form of matter. I think it is potentially more than that. And the principal difference between astral matter and physical matter is that astral subatomic particles possess much less mass than equivalent particles of physical matter. I agree with that. I'm sure that is scientifically sound. However, there may be another existence where the particles possess much less mass than those of astral entities. So the astral, these guys seem to be teaching that the astral is heaven. It's the highest height. And I guess that's something that we could consider. At this point, it's something that I consider and reject, but I'd like to hear what you have to think about it. And he says energy exists in two different forms, physical and astral. I would change that to corporeal and non-corporeal. Again, I think there's energy beyond the astral. I think there's life beyond the astral. He's kind of putting it in earth-heaven terms, a dichotomy, a dualism. You're either on earth or you're on the astral plane. That just doesn't ring true to me. Tell me what you think. Psychokinesis does not move or change physical matter directly, but could do so by working through links between physical and astral matter. I agree with that. The difference between living and non-living matter is that living matter is linked to astral matter, but non-living matter is not. Very, very true. We have a body, and for some reason this body gives us great power in the astral realm. I think because it anchors us here on the physical plane. It anchors us to the earth, and I mean we're 10 feet tall and bulletproof in the astral realm if we go up there with the right intention and for the right reason. So yes, that part is true. Now, these are questions and answers between him and the Invisible College. How does this tie in with the idea that the body supplies the energy to nourish the soul? I don't believe that. I believe that is true on this realm and on the astral plane. Some of the electromagnetic energy generated chemically by the cell is converted into astral energy by the links between the physical and astral molecules. So this is a good explanation of how these kings could live a long time by being linked to astral beings. The energy can flow into the astral matter that composes the soul, powering the various functions, giving it raw material for regeneration of astral matter. In other words, electromechanical energy is converted into astral energy, passed into the soul, and converted into the astral matter to perform cellular growth and repairs astrally. So that's why it's so vital for these beings to be linked up with us, because they cannot continue to live and exist in the astral realm without contact from us. And I agree, he's right, that they can't continue to be on the astral forever. Only he says your only alternative is to reincarnate on earth. I just find it very, very curious why a spiritual being would have to reincarnate here on earth in a mud body in order to continue its evolution. It is counterintuitive. It is a non sequitur. It doesn't follow. If we're a spiritual being, we can, will, and I might even say should, at this point, go beyond the physical manifestation. And I think that's 100% true, and this is just, some of this is just hogwash, malarkey. but we're getting some good information out of it, and we're really starting to get into some really good information pretty quickly here. 2 different reincarnation processes. Someone was asking me about this. The commonest, he says, occurs before conception. Sexual activity attracts a nearby spirit and causes a temporary attachment to the woman's to a woman's soul at the genital chakra. Here's another good reason where we've been talking about closing off chakras. Do you really want every time you have sex to have any nearby spirits be able to attach to your somatic soul at your genital chakra, ladies? I don't think so. Lasts for up to 24 hours, and if conception occurs during this time, then boom, you can have another, you can have a being, a astral being reincarnate into your bouncing baby boy or girl. So that's an interesting tidbit just to throw in there. If the astral soul is not already attached to the mother, if this doesn't happen, what we just talked about, then the fetus can start generating an astral soul of its own late in pregnancy. At this point, 2 things happen. Either a late reincarnation can occur, or the baby is born with a completely new soul, spontaneously created during its embryonic development. Now that's fascinating. That's interesting. It's above my pay grade right now, but it's very, very interesting. I'm still trying to figure out what to do now that I've been born. Hebrews, or the Hindus call this twice born. Now here's a good one. And we're starting to really get into some big information. I can't wait to share some of this with you here. But we may have to go to another session. Why do theocrats refuse to incarnate? Again, the theocrats are the beings in the war of heaven that are in the astral, and they have built their political kingdoms, they've built soul farms, and they are manipulating people on planet Earth. So the reason why they refuse to incarnate, and if you remember Satan in Milton's Paradise Lost, or if you remember Khan in Star Trek Wrath of Khan, better to reign in hell than serve in heaven. With my last breath, I stab at thee. Ricardo Montalban was amazing in that movie. So the theocrats get great knowledge, great power. They have a ruling class on the astral plane. They don't want to give that up by reincarnating. Highly advanced souls who aren't theocrats reincarnate and take the chance. But the reincarnation process is traumatic. You lose a lot of the knowledge that you know, and the theocrats are too selfish and egotistical to take those chances. Theocrats want total consciousness for their astral ego in addition to power over other spirits. Is that what I'm doing? Am I saying I don't want anyone? No, I don't think so. I think our ultimate, from the Christ, our ultimate goal is to guide our own spirit, master our own ascension, be our own gurus. Now here's an interesting point. And this isn't really the good stuff yet. The nourishment that disembodied spirits get from living people, the vampiristic activity that takes place, is not enough, they say, to maintain an astral being. Interesting concept. Don't know if I totally buy it, but it is certainly interesting. And he speculates that spirits reincarnate within 10 to 50 years after physical death. If they don't, their astral soul starts to disintegrate because of a sort of malnutrition. They get ill, they get insane, they get sick. But here's the answer, and I think this is right on. So there's entities up there that even no matter how many human spirits they're in contact with, it's not enough to keep them going. Don't know if I totally buy that, but it makes sense, especially when you pair it with this. Now the theocrats have found an alternative. Astral cannibalism. Where else are you going to hear about astral cannibalism than on the Christian Whistleblower YouTube channel? Jeff, what is astral cannibalism? Well, it's another word for soul farms. It all comes back together. I wish I got to get a cigar tomorrow. I like it. I love it. When a plan comes together. The theocrats use their telepathic powers to hypnotize spirits less highly developed than they are, i.e. those that come up there at the moment of death, or those that are stumbling around in the astral realm that went up there to have sex with Scarlett Johansson and are idiots and don't know what they're doing. Little editorial comment on my part. They hypnotize these spirits. They attach the silver cord to them just as if the other astral souls were the somatic soul of an infant. Then they can draw out enough energy in this way to sustain themselves on the astral plane indefinitely, but the process destroys the other spirit, i.e. a soul farm. Now this I want you to tune into because it's very powerful, and it's one of those things that makes me still want to go through this information and pull out the good stuff. Can they do this to any other spirit? Can they do this to a soul incarnated in a body? No. Even though these astral ascended masters and spirit guides and even Yaldabaoth, who claims to be a god, their powers are actually quite limited. The secret book of John we've been going through teaches us we're smarter than them. They can't damage an embodied soul or override its conscious will. They can't damage you, or they can't override your will. They cannot drag you out of your body. They cannot override your conscious will. You just have to use your will. And they can't capture or devour disembodied souls who resist them, except for the weak and untrained, the lost souls, and that's who we're trying to reach out to with our Ghost Helper program. And even the majority of lost souls are capable of random psychokinetic bursts that allow them to run away from the theocrats when threatened. The theocrats obtain victims by posing as gods and persuading religious believers to enter their bands by promising them eternal bliss in heaven. Soul farms. Can you say soul farms? So this is a very interesting take on soul farms, and it's good information about soul farms, and it's a lot of true information about soul farms. And this is the stuff I really want to get into, but we're going to break it into another program because that's a whole lot for you to swallow and to take in at this point. The war in heaven, truth, deception, or somewhere in between. The invisible college. What do you think, guys? How does this strike you? I think there's a lot of good. I think there's some bad. I think that it is a somewhat myopic vision of these spirits. It's either astral or earth. Not sure I buy that, but it's certainly very, very interesting. Great information about theocracy, great information about soul farms, and great information about the spiritual war that is going on, even in our midst, but yet on just a slightly different frequency. That we can tune into. I can teach you to tune into it, but my question would be, why do you want to? The astral plane is not Tahiti. It's not the Riviera Maya. It's not Hawaii. It's not Turks and Caicos. It's not the French Riviera. It's not for vacation. It's not for fun. No matter what the love and lighters want you to believe, the astral realm is a DMZ that there's a demilitarized zone between us and the astral somewhat, but the astral itself is it's a place of warfare. And it's not a place that you go thinking you're going to play around. If you go, you have a specific mission. You get in, you perform your mission, and you get out. And yes, there are reasons to do so, like ghost helpers, like going up and raiding those soul farms and trying to redeem spirits that are there because they got bad info while they were in the body. Well, I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower. This is how we unwind our mind. This is how we unindoctrinate ourselves. And this is how we learn to guide our own spirit, be our own guru, master our own ascension. And ultimately, it comes down to what the Christ said are the two greatest commandments. Love the divine with all your heart and your neighbor as yourself. That means realize the spark of divinity, according to the words of the Christ, is in you. Love it, grow it, nurture it. And by that realization, you'll also realize that your neighbor has that same divinity, and you can love your neighbor as yourself. In other words, be excellent to each other.